Last night, American President Obama made his last annual State of the Union address, but Israel wasn't mentioned once. Professor Eytan Gilboa is an expert on American-Israeli relations, and he joins us with more. Thanks for coming in.
It's my pleasure.
Is it unusual for Obama not to mention Israel in his State of the Union address?
It is unusual. In all his previous State of the Union messages, he mentioned Israel. It may represent the changing landscape in the Middle East, the civil wars in Syria, Libya, Iraq, and Yemen. It may also represent a recognition, albeit a late one, in the fact that Israel is not the source of all instability and violence in the Middle East. So this may represent a final recognition of what is important and what is not important in the region. Obama's handling of Israel and Israeli-Palestinian relations have not been a huge success, and therefore there is no reason to mention them in his final State of the Union message, which primarily is designed to prepare Obama's legacy.
Obama did mention the Middle East and ISIS, and he said that ISIS is not a threat to the U.S.'s national existence. What did he mean by that?
Yes, I think the Islamic State is not an existential threat to U.S. national security. The president has changed his mind about the Islamic State since the beginning of the offensive of that jihadist organization in recent months and weeks. This organization attacked targets inside the United States. The public is very concerned about terrorist activity inside the state, inspired by the Islamic State, and Republican presidential candidates have criticized the president for his mishandling of ISIS threat, and therefore the president says well, we should not worry about that. This is not a major threat, but it has to be destroyed. He did not say how this could be accomplished.
So changing tunes a little bit, in your opinion, how does Israel feel about Obama's speech? Is the fact that he didn't mention Israel going to have a negative impact on the public perception of the United States and the current government?
It wouldn't be good to hear positive references from Obama about Israel. In many of his statements about Israel, he has been very critical. Some of his statements were outrageous. So many Israelis may feel that it's better not to be mentioned if the mentioning is done within a critical context, and it may affect the basic attitudes of Israelis toward Obama, because many, like the United States, but have been very critical about the president handling of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his policies towards Israeli-Palestinian negotiations and relations.
Obama did speak very positively about the Iran nuclear agreement. He said that it's a great result of international cooperation, and this came just hours after Iran detained 10 U.S. Navy sailors.
I think that most Israelis and many in the United States and in Europe have been very critical about the Iran nuclear deal. I think that people are disappointed by the lack of action against the recent Iranian experiments with long-range missiles, which are capable of carrying nuclear bombs. The Iranians have been testing the United States, and nothing happened. These tests are violating United Nations Security Council resolutions, and it seems that the Iranian nuclear deal is going to be severely tested in the next few years. And Obama thinks that this is the #1 major achievement of his administration in foreign affairs. It remains to be seen. I think that there's a better chance for this deal to be registered in history as a major failure.
So the big question here is, in your view, what was the main message that Obama was trying to deliver in this speech? Was it related to the Iran nuclear agreement, and did he accomplish his goal?
He attempted to establish his legacy both in domestic and foreign affairs. This year is going to be election year in the United States. Much of the speech was referring to issues that are already at the center of the campaign and the public debate. Obama said the United States is the #1 power in the world. He also said that the United States is the most durable and stable and strong economic power. He is right about all of these issues. However, countries make decisions based on perceptions and not necessarily on realities. And the perception of the United States in recent years has been of a declining power. A president that is not interested in leading the world. And Obama was trying to defend his record. He said, yes, we want to lead the world in cooperation with other countries. We cannot be the policeman of the world. Many countries, especially in the Middle East, have been highly disappointed by the lack of leadership in American foreign policy. It was unfortunate that during the NATO military intervention in Libya, someone at the White House came up with this notion of leadership from behind, which characterized Obama's foreign policy and doesn't make any sense, because either you lead or you're behind. You cannot lead from behind.
Thank you so much for joining us, Professor.
Thank you very much.